So that would have, we did just cannabis.
Are you trying to get the agenda?
I was on.
Just back on it, or just clean?
It's the 500 feet, me and you were going that direction. We were talking. The problem with it is.
Oh, my.
Give us the other 500 feet.
Until one was already open and then.
The state doesn't. Yeah, that's what I did. And it wouldn't.
Yeah, mine did that too, so I just
Opened up a new one. We can though, I think. I thought me and you would.
Right back in.
Well, close to
The
agree.
problem with that is it eliminates, when you do 500 feet, you know, a lot of acreage that they can't use it.
Keep it, so there's a program.
So that's a bad thing.
People ask me about my son. I guess I'm about to teach now. Thank you.
I wouldn't just put my liquor. Comfortable.
Here's the other thing, and
Controlled substance.
Royalton Township, where this is, they have one zoning thing. You know what it is? It's combined ag and residential.
Yeah.
So, and nobody else in the township can come up with, they can change and be stricter than us and do exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
They've tried and it's failed. So are we gonna step in and stomp on the rest of them? You know, it's possible. No, I don't know, because they had their own chances, the government to fix it, and they couldn't because nobody, no, we're fine with the way it is. The majority, so I don't know.
Well, it's a local thing, maybe they should have.
Yeah,
moved
a couple people.
There's this consent.
I can't-
agenda number.
You feel for those people, that's what it's,
We'll put it at 1.1 to
but
5.
it's been us. And it's forever. Yeah, there was lights when they were tomato too, but these are gonna be bright.
Yeah.
It's not- it's not
It's a little
gonna-
business, but.
Okay.
So you can't
Yeah.
fill it on the.
Yeah.
Is that?
It's like, but they want
That'll be asked.
to them, not to be the bad guy for the whole population.
He did for Northville. Yes, pick one thing, smaller town.
Your son's still liking the farming?
Most days. Public safety.
All right, we do have 10 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order and we'll rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, well, thank you everybody for showing up today on this wonderful, I guess it ain't raining up here. It was cold rain back in time, but anyways, we'll move on to public forum. Do we have anybody in the meeting room here that wants to come on up and state your name and where you're from? And you got 3 minutes, so.
I don't need that much.
Not from,
I'm Pastor Peter Dobson from Danforth Community Chapel, and so Danforth Township. And this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so I'm scared. Just wanted to see if cannabis could not be anywhere in our township, especially near the churches. A lot of farming areas, so I'm sure if folks could give up territory, they would do that, but cannabis could be illegal everywhere. I would love that. I can't choose that for myself. That's all I need to say.
Thank you.
thank you. Is there anybody else in the public? Anybody online? Okay. Seeing nothing, we will move on to the agenda. Any additions or corrections?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, if we could move consent agenda item number 8A, the property appraiser new hire, to the regular agenda item number 1.1. So the personnel committee has that position recommended for a backfill. And so we need to consider an actual filling of that position after the personnel committee report. So if we can do that. And then there's one piece of additional information that was at your place, and that's the handout on assistant attorney salaries that may be helpful during the personnel committee discussion.
Okay,
Move it as amended.
okay.
I'll second it.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same thing. Okay, approve the minutes of the May 6th, 2025 regular board meeting and summary for publication.
I'll move that.
Right,
Second.
got a second? Is there any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same thing. Acknowledge the minutes of boards, committees and correspondence, transportation. Yes.
Did that include the May 13th?
Yes.
Yes.
It did include that, okay, thank you,
Yep, that whole E.
okay, thank
So
you.
you guys are on.
Yeah.
Yep, okay. Okay, so on F, acknowledge the minutes of boards, committees and correspondence, transportation committee minutes, May 6th, 2025. So that'll help. I'll read the whole thing this time. Sorry.
I can make that motion.
All right. Yes, second.
I'll second it.
All right. Any other discussion? Otherwise, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same thing. All right, consent agenda with the modification there. Someone want to move the consent agenda?
I'll move consent.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Under discussion, I'd just like to say, hopefully everybody read through that. I know on a road tour last week, Mark was pretty impressed. Mark and Aaron were pretty impressed with some of the bids that were coming in for some road improvements. They're there. You can see, I think it was like 30% lower than estimates. That's a good thing for us. He said, because the oil prices are lowering and, you know, just the raw material going in. And as you could see, there was a lot of companies that bid against it. So, I mean, there was like 6 or 7. So that's always good.
I can remember about 4 years ago, we had one.
One, yeah. And we've done always pretty good, but even with that one, it wasn't bad, but
Yeah.
you like to see a few. The other thing I'd like to highlight was the timber auction results. That exceeded expectations again as well. I think, Greg does a very, very good job and his team, that whole department, of managing and, you know, making some money doing it as well. So it's good to see. So, anybody else got any discussion? Otherwise, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same thing. All right, regular agenda, we'll move on to personnel committee. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go through most of these except, F. I think, Matt, does that sound right? And just do everything else and then we'll discuss the attorney's wages after?
Yeah, we'll take assessor and county at the end.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so we had a meeting May 12th. The following recommendations were made. Acknowledge the resignation of property appraiser Dylan Gerke, effective May 2nd, 2025, and authorize the backfill of the position, any subsequent vacancies that result from internal promotion or lateral transfer. Then in the sheriff's office, acknowledge the resignation of Sheriff's Secretary Angelica Veldhuis, effective April 30th, 2025, and authorize the backfill of the position, any subsequent vacancies resulting from internal promotion or lateral transfer. And in the sheriff's office jail, acknowledge the resignation of corrections officer Dominic Johnner, effective April 30th, 2025, and authorize the backfill of the position, any subsequent vacancies resulting from internal promotion or lateral transfer. Also in the sheriff's office jail, acknowledge the resignation of corrections officer Bryce Mitchell, effective May 8th, 2025. Authorize the backfill of the position, any subsequent vacancies resulting from internal promotion or lateral transfer. Then in public works, ratify the separation of highway supervisor Chris Matrius, effective April 1st, 2025, and a request to backfill this position will be presented at a later date. An auditor treasurer zoning, planning, zoning, solid waste. Ratify the separation of land resources manager David Bantha, effective April 6th, 2025, and authorize the backfill of the position, any subsequent vacancies resulting from internal promotion or lateral transfer. The current intention is to wait until post-construction season. However, the workload of the auditor treasurer will be a factor in the backfill timing. And in solid waste, approve the job description and grade for solid waste technician 1, and approve the job description and grade for solid waste technician 2. Authorize the human resources manager to implement these changes, including executing any required memorandums of agreement with the exclusive representative.
We take all those in one.
I'll move all them.
Okay, and then I'll just add a little bit.
Yeah.
So, cause we have,
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, sounds
And
good.
then I will add the resignations, cause we always get asked, so. The sheriff's office secretary went to the drug task force, is now working for Societal. And the two jailers were probationary, one moved, and the other one had family issues and things going on. So that's why those resignations are there. Anyway, so I second that up to the next.
I would just like to hit real quick on the job descriptions for solid waste technician in 1 and 2. So when these were, so this is, this was the transfer station and the HHW. So when we came up with these positions, we had 2 separate job descriptions. So what we did is combine the job descriptions. So if you need somebody, what had happened is sometimes you had enough HHW people and not enough solid waste or vice versa. But we couldn't use them back and forth because their job descriptions were different. So we combined the job descriptions so they can either work in the HHW site or the solid waste transfer station site. So that is technician 1, correct? Okay. Now technician 2 is, we added a few duties like operating a skid steer, and just some stuff. I think mostly it was skid steer, right?
Right, and just some operational decision.
Oh, yeah. Like if a dumpster's full, call the dumpster company and get it empty, not call the solid waste manager and have them do it. So them are the types of job description differences in there. So it's not gonna be, there's gonna be like two, of the second one, the tech 2 type of deal. So that's just kind of helps some of the operations, so it's not so clunky. You want to talk?
If I can.
I'm butchering it.
Me auditor treasurer, so the one big clarification too that I want to make is that it's 2 of the existing positions that we would be changing into the solid waste technician 2. It's not that we're hiring 2 additional people. It's just that we're changing 2 of them to a number 2 to recognize those extra duties.
Yeah.
Sure, questions. When you mentioned the operation of the equipment, so that wage then, does that fall in line? Because there are other operator positions in the county, correct?
Correct.
So it's the same or?
It is not the same because the skid loader operation is such a small portion of their duties. Whereas when you look at the highway department, you have, the actual, like that is their job to be operators where, in this, it is just a small portion of what they're doing. Most of it is what they're doing customer service.
Is it greater than the operator wage or lesser?
Less,
Lesser.
yes.
Okay, I didn't have that to compare to. See, okay. Thank you.
Anybody else got any questions about that? And then with the land resources manager, Kelly just wants to, she just figured instead of hiring somebody now right in the heart of construction season, try to train them, still get through everything. But just, we're gonna wait till after construction season, hopefully, and then see how all that work pans out and, then just take a step back. We might change a few things in that or whatever, but just take a minute. We went through a few of them here in a while and something's not working, so we're gonna try something different.
Yeah, I'm not sure how.
That makes sense. We got a motion and second all the way up to F. If there's anybody got any other questions or concerns or discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, same thing. Okay, now, approve the attorney wage scale. This got sent back to, personnel. And I'm trying to jog everything back. I don't know, I'm gonna probably not get it all right, but so what had happened was, we had been working through the county attorney's salaries. They're not on a grid, they are graded. And this went through personnel, well, we worked on it, we've been working on it since probably January. Just getting the information, talking about where they should be, how they should be, working with the county attorney. To try to get a grid or a scale that's correct for these guys. Cause you can't just move them to a different number just so the pay gets there. So we wanted to keep them at the grades they were, but get the salaries in line. We did a lot of wage comparison, wage study. As you can see, you guys got some of the studies there or the comparisons. And there was a couple of them I didn't really think were accurate, but we did confirm. So as you can see, the grade is a lot lower. The pay scale is a lot lower than where it shows that they're at. So we want to just get that aligned, which we've done that. We have another unit. Which one is it? It's we got a separate pay scale, same grade, but a separate pay scale for what was it?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dave Minke, County Administrator. So there is a relationship between grade and pay, but it is not necessarily linear. And so I think, Josh, what you're referring to was the correction officers during the pandemic and post-pandemic, when we were having significant recruitment challenges, we increased the pay a number of times, and they're a grade 7, but they're in actuality paid equivalent to most grade 8s or near grade 8s in the county.
The other thing, right now, the way this was drawn out was the county board doesn't technically have control over the pay on the attorneys. So with this new scale, then it would come to us. So the county attorney can essentially in his budget pay where he needs to pay him. But what this would do was bring that back down to if he needs to adjust this or whatever, he would come to personnel, talk to personnel, and the county board would approve pay raises or pay according. And that's how we have every other one. Am I right on that? Every other one in the county is that way. This one just wasn't that way, hasn't been that way forever. So we're trying to get that all aligned. Been working with the county attorney on this as well, and he's on board. So with this on your, we didn't actually get the proposed scale on here, which was on the last minutes, but I did write it down. So on the assistant county attorneys, the proposed wage scale would start at $100,000 and it would go to 138, 174. Now, if you look at Pine Actual, so it would be what the Pine Actual 2025 is. No change in pay. If you see the scale difference from average, that does still put Pine substantially below. Okay, scale difference, actual difference from average. That puts us a little higher than average on these comparisons. One of the comparisons, and I think you guys talked about this last time when I wasn't here, the public defenders really hammered us. And that's kind of where this got a little out of whack, kind of like with the corrections officers, when we just have to make some market adjustments. So it put a little bit above, and that'll stay there until we make any differences on that. On the senior county attorneys or the chief county attorney, the proposed would be the 2025 actual, we would put the proposed at 110,000 for the start. And then the max would be at 150,613. So it would be what that actual is. Now, as you can see, the actual difference from average would be less. So less than what the average, so that put them below. And we don't necessarily have a policy that says we want to be average. Typically, we run, well, and I can't even say typically we're, I just said we get, we're usually around average. Most of the time a little below average. Like I said, the public defender, when that came through a couple years ago, that really blew everything out of the water. And I had a conversation with an attorney just a couple days ago, and she's a younger attorney out of Duluth. And we were talking about something else, and after we got done, I had the conversation. I'm like, just, can I ask you a couple of questions for my second job I have on county commissioner board? And I said, I don't want to know what you make, but she's a couple years out of school. This is her second job in private. And I'm like, our assistant county attorneys, this is our range where we're at. And she said, Josh, yeah, you're a little low even where we are today. She goes in the private, and on the private side, you're gonna make more than that. She said, and she specifically said she wasn't in school when all the defender stuff came about, but she said it is a hot topic in the private industry that a lot of people can leave the private side to go make more money as a public defender. So that made me feel a little bit better. I think Reese, with his team and his office, has got a really good group. There's a lot of experience there. That's the other thing. Some of these real low ones on here, the highest person there has been there for 2 years, so his group has got a lot more experience. They do a good job. And we hear it every year when he gives his, analysis of his department, how much more they do than pretty much everybody on this list. I don't think there's anybody that sees the caseload that you guys do per attorney. So what else did I miss?
I have a question. I think you said the average on the senior attorneys was 110 or
No, if you look at this sheet,
I don't have 110 anywhere on
No,
this.
it's in here. It's in our
the
agenda.
average,
The scale we're gonna move is in our,
that one is incorrect.
in the pack.
This is the one we got today.
Yeah. The one in the minutes
Oh, the one that's in our agenda,
on the agenda? Okay, I gotta get there.
under number 9 of personnel.
So on the one I have here under senior county attorneys, there's not even 110,000 listed anywhere. It says the average is minimum of 120 and then the max is 154. That's like that.
On the
Trying to
average,
keep up.
That's what the Minnesota manager.
Exhibit C is what I have.
110 for the minimum.
Yeah, we're using these numbers.
no, that one's wrong.
That one's wrong.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so the numbers we were gonna use, if you look in the packet, under 9, it says assistant county attorney scales 100,000 to 144,842. That is not the one we're proposing. We're proposing 100,000 to 138,174.
thank you for that clarification.
Yeah. So,
You're working on your Zindas too?
the average, I'm looking, average. Okay, so JJ, if you look up right just under the Minnesota Public Defenders, there
Yeah.
is average. So, our proposal is a little higher than average. About $5,802. And then the average on the senior, our proposal is about $4,000 less. So. Matt, did you have anything to add?
No, I'm good with where you're at. I just thought that we were at 140. But it was the top for assistant, 138.
138.
Yeah, okay.
And sorry about that. Yeah, that whatever. But yeah, go ahead.
It was just clarifying questions at this point.
Yeah.
So for the senior county attorney,
I mean, the max, somebody's already there at 150, and that's the top that we're proposing.
Yep,
And somebody is already at 138, and that is the top that we're proposing,
yep,
not the 144.
yeah, no, 138.
Which was the old proposal.
The 144 was?
Yes.
Okay,
Cause I
looked at the minutes.
I looked back a year, to the minutes from a month ago.
Okay, yep,
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's great.
no,
That was, maybe I'll just add my comment. That was
yep,
part of sending that back to personnel to take a look at that. And I'm glad you took a look at that.
yeah. Yeah. Okay, do you have anything more?
That makes sense now.
Okay. Anybody else got any, well, we haven't made a motion on this. I will move this proposed wage scale. And do you want me to clarify it one more time?
Yep, do the numbers one more time.
So I'll move to put our assistant county attorney salaries at 100,000 for the min and 138, 174 for the max. And the senior county attorney salaries at 110,000 for the min and 150,613 for the max.
Josh, say that again. What was the max on the senior?
150,613.
156.13?
Yeah, 150,613. I can see how that got mixed up. Not 156, 150,613. Okay, so with that, I will move that.
Second.
Okay. Now, do we have any other discussion on that?
Just one more clarifying question.
Yep.
So that is, when you reach the max, is there, on top of that, anything like a COLA or like a, 2%, your 50, all those things?
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
Commissioner Nelson, so typically the top would be the top. And so this 138, 174 will be the max at the 15-year 2%. Typically,
Said 174.
138, 174, is that?
138, 174.
I don't have a once, I thought 154, 745 was the top.
It's this right there.
Senior. Oh, God, I think 170,000.
Yes, for the assistant attorney.
Gotcha.
I'm just using this as an example.
I got it right.
It would be the
Thank you.
absolute top at the 2% at 15-year. Typically, the board has advanced those pay the top of the chart by the cost of living each year. And so in December, you'll have the opportunity to consider that. And then whether you do that or don't do that will be your decision, but typically the top has advanced at the amount of the COLA.
And then for the future, let's just say, whatever. Something blows up, Reese comes to us and says, hey, the scale's way too high. I'm just kidding. But anyways, he's gonna come to us, to the personnel. We're gonna reassess the salaries. I'm assuming it wouldn't be that, but I'm thinking we're pretty good for a while. And then the pay scale will come through the county board from now on.
Question, how many people in each one of these positions? How many assistants and how many seniors?
There's one chief deputy that would be on the senior county attorney scale, and then the rest of my assistants would fall under the assistant county salaries.
You have how many?
5.
5.
5 total or 4 and 1? 5 total or 4
4
and
and
1?
1, so
5 and
1 senior and 1.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah, the senior county attorney or like chief deputy county attorney. There's just one.
Thank you for clarifying.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same thing. Okay, we will move on to 1.1, which is this one, right?
The assessor backfill.
Okay, so, the backfill of the position is on the person, okay. Regular agenda in mind. Consider hiring of Lake Newson as property appraiser effective May 27, grade 8, step 1, 26, 14 per hour. So that is what we're moving on 1.1. I'll move it.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on this?
And the only reason it got moved off of the thing is because we actually had the person to hire.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it would have gone through personnel, then been on the consent.
it's on the personnel committee, so we had to approve that before we could hire the person. So that is why it went this way. So typically, we approve the backfill and then the next time we get somebody to, so any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same thing. All right, number 2, Rural Utilities Service Reconnect Award update.
And Mr. Chair, Leslie Sauter was planning to be online. There she is.
Okay, she's.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Sorry I can't be there in person, but in front of you today is just a request to authorize the county administrator as an authorized representative, signature and certifier, as well as myself and Kelly as administrators on the USDA online application intake system for the telecommunications programs through a resolution. This is required for us to do our quarterly reporting on the Reconnect funding that the county received to do the broadband project east of Hinckley. We were getting ready to submit our first quarterly report, and I uploaded a resolution that authorized David as our signer, but it didn't include this specific system. So now we are acknowledging this specific system that he can sign off on things, and Kelly and I can enter in the information so that moving forward, as we spend down the funds and work with SEI to get the broadband installed, that we can quarterly report to them.
All right, well, this sounds good. So we need a motion.
I'll move that, then I have a question.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, and so we got a motion for resolution 2025-20 by Holland, second by Nelson. And then Holland, you got some discussion.
Leslie, how? If we get this sent in, let's say we got it sent in this week. Does SCI have any indication how, or do you have any indication how fast that gets returned? So SCI can actually start doing work?
Well, SCI is currently working through getting their, I forget how it's worded, but pull it up here quick. Their engineering to get kind of pre-approved by the federal government so that they can get reimbursed for those pre-engineering costs, which helped us apply for the grant. And that's been in process for a couple months now. Once he gets that approved, then we will start doing the drawdown for the construction. And the reason that we're kind of held up there is because we only get one opportunity to submit a request to be reimbursed for some of those kind of pre-application or pre-construction costs is the very first request. So he has to submit a bunch of documentation as well as his plans to get that approved before we can do that first draw. This resolution is purely so that we can report quarterly on the activity. And for the first quarter, we have really nothing to report. But I would say, to answer your question, I'm not sure, but I know they're excited to get started. It's just there are a lot of hurdles to jump over and hoops to jump through when you're dealing with federal funds. So we keep doing the paperwork and submitting it and then waiting and finding new things that we need to complete.
Thank
So
you.
hopefully this construction season.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for all your work on that. Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same thing.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. All right, number 3, Lower St. Croix Watershed Partnership. Consider the approval of April 28, 25. Lower St. Croix Watershed Partnership Policy Committee recommends as the follows. So
Kelly's gonna tell us.
I can speak.
I wasn't, sorry, I was reading.
So Kelly Schroeder, County Auditor Treasurer. So on April 28th, the Lower St. Croix Watershed Partnership Policy Committee, which Steve can speak to as well, because he sits on that committee, recommended a whole series of changes, but really in the end, they're very minor changes. So the first was they wanted to amend the actual the comprehensive watershed plan to expand the priority areas for forest management and woodland stewardship plans to include parcels that drain to regionally significant rivers, streams, or lakes. And so that's just a slight change in the verbiage to allow those things to happen on more properties under the plan. And then it just modifies that list of regionally significant streams and rivers, which is somewhat related to the first thing. And then adjust those priority locations as well to reflect all of those changes. So that's the first one, and that's just changes to the overall comprehensive watershed management plan. And then underneath that plan, there is a work plan. And so we need to just add in that work plan as an eligible activity, the forest management plans or woodland stewardship plans, as an eligible activity. And then there was just some minor adjustments to the budget, and that was attached of just moving from one bucket to the next bucket, really, for spending the funds. And so it doesn't change the overall budget at all. It just moves it, reallocates the funds between the budget lines that already existed. And then the last change was just requesting that the grant agreement be extended one additional year so that that work can continue to happen. Steve, I don't know if you want to fill in anything more than that.
No, I talked about it in my report last meeting. I really think it's something that we've discussed a lot, I call it the cumbersomeness of having this entity that's not a joint powers, that every time we do a modification or a plan change, it has to go back to all of the boards and get approval, and then come back to the entity for approval. And so it's kind of slows the whole process down, and these are pretty minor changes, but necessary as work goes along. We've seen, oh, this would work much better if we did it this way.
Yeah, and it's important to know none of this is county local dollars. This is all that watershed plan.
That's Pine County, any money.
Right.
So for instance, like when Snake River watershed policy, we are a joint powers, so we just do this.
Yeah, you would just, if you decided, if your staff came and said, we do these forest plans, we're all familiar with those.
Yeah.
And in the original writing of our work plan, it said it had to be adjacent to or the headwaters, let's say, of Rock Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're finding there's these little ditches, tributaries, and somebody says, I'd like to do a forest plan here. And it flows into Rock Lake. Why can't I get some of that? Or have the forester write me a plan?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's basically where it came from.
Is there any appetite to do a joint powers?
Yes, there always has been.
Okay.
I don't know if we have a majority of people that think that way yet.
How many entities are there? You got quite a few.
A dozen probably.
Yeah.
It's not just the counties, it's all the watersheds that exist in.
Yeah, because you got actually watershed districts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of metro.
Yeah. And so you kind of do that dance between metro and rural. So it works. We've done some wonderful projects.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you make a motion?
I will make that
Okay.
motion.
Can we get got a second on that? I'll second it. Is there any other discussion on it? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, number 4, set county board special meeting.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, been working with Commissioner Nelson on getting a meeting on economic development at the Watron Dairy Farm. And so we think we have the details worked. And so if you're agreeable, if you would call a special meeting for June 24th, 9 a.m. at the Watron Dairy Farm outside Sandstone.
Okay. Do we need a motion on that or just?
Yes, please.
Okay,
I'll make the motion.
all right.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Same thing. All right, Commissioner updates, towards zero death workshop and meeting.
The workshop was really more designed for the people that are in charge of towards zero death, in my opinion anyway. And then the meeting took place the same time as a road tour, so I let Ryan know that we wouldn't be there.
Sounds good. Pine County Chemical Health Coalition. Looks like Ludwig.
Actually,
Both of you?
yeah, he's been allowing me to attend those,
Oh,
so
okay.
that's great, thank you. I guess the primary activity that we covered was really setting the budget for next year, at least preliminarily, because we've got all this, the funds that came from settlement of opioid settlements. Correct. And so as we looked at that, there's actually quite a few $1,000s there that we will be receiving, have received, and will continue to receive. And so we kind of work through where that should go. A lot of it was, at this point, is directed towards prevention, rather than, because there's a lot of programs out there, once people are in it, but I think one of the goals of using that money is to prevent people from, especially our youth, from getting into the opioid situation to start with. And so we looked at those funds. We actually, because they fronted a bunch of money early on in the settlement, and we do have I say healthy fund balance, although that is very dedicated money. So we can't use it for anything. But the idea was perhaps to increase that over what we have been spending. I think the budget was like 50,000, looking at maybe going to 80 for this year, just at least kicking that around. I guess I know you had asked a question about, are there other grants, other programs? And there are a few things. There's one called Change the Outcome. That was a grant that was specifically towards Hinckley, and that was $125,000 grant. That's also, we didn't have to put any money into that. And so, I mean, there are some other programs that we're kind of partnering with, but.
Yeah, I just think it's amazing when I got to go back to the presentation Becky gave us, and Steve, and since I've been a commissioner, Terry Fawcett and Reese and, Judge Wynn and Health and Human Services, they've set up a lot of youth things. And we actually, we know all of home placements were kind of dropping across the state, but Pine County was significantly drop by, percentage comparison. And I think, like Steve has always said, 4-H and all these little things, they're hard to measure the impact. But I think in the last 8 to 6 to 8 years or whatever, I think we finally seen some impact from those types of programs. And the savings was big. Our savings and all the placements is, over $500,000. So, and I know Reese, that you guys did such good work, with all that stuff you did, and a lot has to go to that. So I was just, when I read the minutes, that, and I thought, wow, I just was wondering, is there, of the Pine, is there something or anything that we can use those dollars for, that for prevention or education, that would shore up something that we're losing grant dollars on, or something? Or that something coming to an end. I don't know. Or do we create something else? I don't. But it's worth a discussion at Pine County Chemical Health, I think, and see what goes on. That's what I was thinking when I called Roger. So,
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I would defer to our county attorney who really leads this group, and I don't know if there were if there are anything that, you know, we ought to be considering or, changes or adjustments to the budget, I mean, yeah. Do you have anything to add to that?
It's Mr. Chair, Commissioner Nelson, I mean, that's a lot of good points, and I think a lot of the work that we've done have led to the out-of-home placement. I do think there's possibility for more. Right now, we're kind of in a holding pattern because there's a grant application out there that we're waiting on for restorative practices. And I think if we get that grant, that's going to be a game changer. And Terry Fawcett also has a JDAI grant of $100,000 that, depending on whether we get this restorative practices grant, that'll dictate how he uses that money too. So I think I anticipate some good youth programming coming up with respect to that.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you guys are doing a lot of good work there, so that's awesome. Appreciate it. All right, Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Committee. It's like Waldham.
I didn't attend.
Okay. Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Workforce Development Board.
That one was both of us. I didn't attend. Did you make it?
Oh, I'm an alternate on that one, so. All right, East Central Solid Waste Commission.
Yep, garbage keeps coming in. But the new cell is waiting for approval from MPCA with these soil borings to make sure the clay below the plastic liner still meets the specs that they need to meet. And they should know by the end of this week. And then we're by midsummer, we should be putting garbage into that hole. So
How much, what do you got left in the other one? Are you gonna top
till
out?
fall, they're close enough now that they'll continue to do that on the right days and then close that permanent closure. Put a permanent closure on that.
So I remember way back when you guys did the last one, it was something like 3 million to dig a new hole and 1.5 million to close the old one. Is that?
Well, yeah, they kind of work hand in hand, you know, we have several $1 million that you have every month we set money aside for closure. And in case something happened and we just had to walk away from the facility.
Yeah.
It's like an insurance bond.
Yeah.
That says you gotta have enough $1 million sitting in reserve, so they don't have to come back to all the counties and say, pony up here.
Yeah.
So we've got in excess of $5 million in a fund that just sits there in case we have to close it.
Is it still roughly about them numbers? I'm guessing I went up, or maybe I was wrong.
It depends on, because sometimes they were able to close smaller portions of a
Okay.
whole cell.
Okay, interesting. East Central Regional Library.
Okay, maybe the biggest thing that we're kind of dealing with at the moment would be the joint powers agreement. And we are taking, you know, statutorily, you know, part of the joint, we have to look at it every couple of years. But I think at this point, there seems to be more of an appetite amongst the commissioners on the board to actually take a look at that and do some changes, some constructive changes to that joint powers. We're sort of proceeding on that, and that will be, you know, over the next couple of months. So may not change the funding formula, but maybe some of the internal workings of how the boards work and such like that. So make it a little more smooth. And the other thing was, we're going to start on our budget earlier than usual, because I think every county has expressed there that we're all in sort of, our backs are to the wall and there's not extra funding. So, and there may be less funding. So that message has been proclaimed, and we'll see where that goes.
Okay, thank you. Soil and water.
I didn't attend.
All right. Lakes and Pines.
We had a meeting yesterday, with the full board and, had a report on that they've done, they do every couple years, they do a, survey, of the people that are served and see if we're still hitting the mark and how we're doing. And so that was interesting. And then there's a bunch of demographic information that I find interesting. You know, our population throughout east central Minnesota, as we know, is an older it's getting older. And a lot of people my age in any way. The services that Lakes and Pines provide fit into those two big categories, Head Start and senior citizens. And that's where the clients tend to be. So until the legislature gets done and we know where the funding's gonna lie, of course, there's nervousness about programs like fuel assistance and there's indication that there'll be some fairly major cuts in fuel assistance in the coming budget year. And that's mostly federal money.
All right. Is there any other meetings? Anybody attended? Okay. Is there any other to come before the county board?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would just point out that there is no legislative update on the agenda because we know the legislature did not complete its work. So we're still in a holding pattern. There is an AMC video up tomorrow. You should all have received something in your email. If you haven't, let me know and I can forward it to you, but that will be AMC's update on the latest and greatest and what the road to, closure looks like.
They called for a special session yet or not?
No, and it's reported in the, media that the governor is not called for a special session until there's a final deal agreed to by House and Senate leadership.
Okay. All right, well, take a look at upcoming meetings. We did add names to everything now, so then everybody can kind of see it's maybe a little easier. And if you can't make it, try to, I expressed last time how important these committees are. So see what you can do. And with that, we'll declare the meeting adjourned.